So we're going to do another mechanism here. And the mechanism we're going to do is free radical halogenation. Free radical halogenation. This is a complicated mechanism, or can be complicated. What we're going to do is consider and start with the simplest possible alkane, methane, and a halogen. Okay, so this occurs in several steps. So the first thing happens in by the way, this is in your Bruce text in section 13.2, page 558. Okay, so the first thing that happens in free radical halogenation is you get homolytic cleavage of this bond. One electron goes over here, another electron goes over here. Okay? So, can you predict the products of what I've described here? For step 1, what happens? Nothing happens to methane, right? I drew no electron movement there at all, but I did draw two radicals, two halogen radicals. Okay? And that's step 1. By the way, this requires either light, which I draw as h nu, energy in the form of light, or heat. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2, which I guess we could even draw without the methane there, right? Step 2 then is you get a halogen radical. By the way, you can guess, well, let me hold that off. All right, what happens here then is this radical comes up and bumps into that and abstracts an electron from that. Okay, and can you tell what's the product of that? That's a hydrogen, right? These two electrons, there's one electron and there's another electron, make a bond between X and H. Okay, plus all right. And then step 3. Is that. Alright, so 3 steps. Now I'd like to point something out here that's going to be an important part of this conversation. Number 1, and I'm not a big fan of terminology, but the books use it, and for precision or to help us sort of sort things out in our heads, terminology is necessary. So let's say this is step 1. Step 1 is an example of something called free radical initiation. And you can maybe see why that would be called initiation, right? We're taking non-radicals and making radicals from them, and that's called initiation. Step 2 is when we have radicals here and we have radicals here. It's a different radical. That's called propagation. And then step 3 is when we have radicals and we end up with no radicals, and that's called termination. All right. And I'd like to point out one more thing, and then we'll have a follow-up video to this. But the last thing I'd like to point out is, how did these two guys get together and not these two guys? Right? So there are two radicals here, and there are two radicals here. Why did these guys come together and not these two? I want you to think about this, and then I'll answer it in a follow-up video. Or not. Maybe I'll just wait till you ask me. Okay, can you see that? Why did those two react and not those two?